partial government shutdown is hitting the Department of Homeland Security. Lawmakers failing to reach an agreement to fund that department, which could lead to big delays at airports across the country, and also the distribution of disaster relief. It affects FEMA. Madeline Rivera joins me live now in studio with the very latest. Hi, Maddie.
Hi, Aisha. It's like Groundhog Day all over again on Capitol Hill, and the blame game is in full swing as Democrats and Republicans remain at an impasse over DHS funding. Lawmakers are now on a previously scheduled recess. They left town without a deal in hand after Senate Democrats blocked the consideration of a spending bill earlier this week. Dems say a White House offer falls short of the changes they want to see for ICE, and one of their biggest demands calls for DHS officers to get a judicial warrant before entering private property.
It's our expectation that we will respond to the unserious offer that Republicans have made that clearly omits things that need to happen, including but not limited to our demand that the Fourth Amendment be respected.
The White House, for their part, says they've been involved in good faith negotiations. Republicans have cast some Democratic positions as unreasonable, adding they should be willing to make concessions too.
We're talking, but we have to protect law enforcement. ICE has done a phenomenal job. Border Patrol, we have a closed border for the first time in history. We have to protect law enforcement.
So now DHS is facing a lapse in funding, marking the third time at least part of the government has shut down in less than 6 months. Remember, though, ICE received a significant amount of funding from the One Big Beautiful Bill. There are other agencies under the vast DHS umbrella like TSA, FEMA, and the Coast Guard that could take the biggest hits. Many of these employees will still be on the job. They just likely won't get paid until the shutdown ends, putting another financial strain after the country's longest government shutdown in the fall. And it's unclear when this will end. It may continue through the State of the Union address on February 24th, Aisha.
That's definitely what Republicans are thinking. Thank you very much, Maddie. Good to see you.
You too.
Okay, joining me now on the impacts of the Department of Homeland Security shutting down is GOP Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy. Senator, good to have you on the program, and happy Mardi Gras.
Happy Mardi Gras. As you can see, it's Mardi Gras in New Orleans. I got something over there on the couch. So.
Who cares about Valentine's Day when you got Mardi Gras? Let me quickly play a bite here for you from the Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer, on where these negotiations over ICE stand right now.
We're ready to fund everything. We're ready to have good, serious proposals supported by the American people. They're not. They're sort of dug in the ground, and they're not moving forward.
So they're ready, but they're also not here anymore. The Senate is in recess. A lot of folks are on congressional delegations all over the world. And some of your colleagues say that this is strategic, that the Democrats want to keep the government shut down, at least through the president's State of the Union. If that is the case, Senator, then why didn't Republicans force Democrats to stay in town?
It takes 60 votes to pass something. You can be forced to stay in town, but still you're ignoring the other responsibilities that you have. I'm actually at Mardi Gras, but on the other hand, I'll be meeting with people all this week related to the future of my state. And Democrats are asking things that, for example, they never demanded of themselves. You have the quote of Hakeem Jeffries saying that there needs to be a search warrant. I'm told that under President Obama's term, that was never required. They use the same procedure that this administration is using. So you can allow yourself to be manipulated, and then you ignore your other responsibilities. We shouldn't do that.
Okay. I'm sure you've heard Governor Tim Walz in Minnesota, now wants Congress, all of you, to pay the city of Minneapolis $10 million, local businesses that have been hurt by protesters, really, that created chaos out in the streets over ICE operations. Here he is. Listen to this.
The federal government needs to pay for what they broke here. There are going to be accountability on the things that happen. The federal government needs to be responsible. You don't get to break things and then just leave without doing something about it.
Is there any world in which the Republican-held Senate would do that?
Simply put, no. What he could do is take the billions that he allowed to be stolen from federal programs in Minnesota and get some of it back and use to pay for their deficit. I mean, my gosh, it's been nothing but kind of a con game up there when it comes to federal dollars going to Minnesota. So the governor, I think, is trying to hold up, trying to cover up his lack of leadership, but that's never going to happen.
So I watched your hearing this week, the HELP hearing on child care funding, because the administration is trying to block this funding in 5 different states. You had some experts on, and Democrats are saying that the administration is really trying to block the funding for one and one reason only, which is to play politics. Listen here. Soundbite, Senator, but Patty Murray basically said, we want to make sure there's no fraud, but we should not draft child care policy based off of a right-wing YouTube so-called investigation. We shouldn't put our kids in jeopardy. They're saying that this is all happening because of Nick Shirley and people alleging that there is fraud going on where there is not fraud going on, even though we know there has been fraud.
So about almost 10% of the dollars that have gone to Minnesota for childcare has gone out the back door into somebody's pocket in a way unrelated to childcare. Now, that's not an investigative reporter, that's documented. Now, we've got to root that out. If the American people are putting our tax dollars up to support other families with childcare, you don't want 10% of it being ripped off. And I think Washington State, it's 35%. This is across the nation. Now, some states are doing really well. Mississippi's like less than 1%. It's tip of the hat to my next door neighbor down, I'm from Louisiana. And Louisiana doesn't do bad. We're about 5%. There's ways to lower that rate of fraud. In Louisiana, we have unannounced inspections to see if the children who are claimed to be there are actually there. There are ways to root out this fraud. When 10% of it's going to fraud, there's a problem, and that's what I'm committed to figuring out.
Can you, Senator, mandate these preventative actions that you talked about during this hearing, things like unannounced visits, or just making sure there's a database of children that are attending these daycares? Can Congress mandate this?
You can certainly, absolutely. There are best practices that states have done that have taken fraud rates that were high and brought them down. Wisconsin was there, and Wisconsin spoke about having a problem, and then they integrated everybody inspecting, and if somebody that was going there for a health inspection noticed there were no children on the playground, they would call up to the people running the program. There are ways to integrate that, and absolutely, as chairman of that committee, I'm going to do my best to mandate that.
Okay, Senator Bill Cassidy, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.